Reddit, what is your greatest irrational fear? Story 1. My biggest fear is tripping, falling, and hitting the ground face first. Not just that, it's hitting the ground face first, with my mouth open, causing my teeth to hit the hard floor, or rock and breaking all of them. Like that scene in American History X, where he kicks the guy in the head. Whenever I trip, I have a mini heart attack and clench my jaw to minimize the possibility of this ever happening to me. Story 2. That an old, scary witch woman will get me when I'm coming up from the basement, when I'm doing laundry, or have to do something in the basement. Even during the day, it takes all my obstacles to not run my butt up the stairs and keep my manly composure when my girlfriend and the kids are home. When they're not home, though, beast mode up the stairs. Story 3. Shipwrecks. Not the actual event of a shipwreck, but the fact that there are these massive pieces of metal, twisted and warped, rusted and covered with barnacles, just lying down there, miles below the surface of the ocean. The thought of them fills me with dread. Just the fact that they're there. I can't explain it. Edit for clarification. I too find shipwrecks endlessly fascinating. I look at pictures of them, and I've seen countless documentaries on the Titanic. But if I'm in or near water, or if I'm alone in a confined space, and the thought enters my mind, I get very anxious. One time I thought about the Titanic while taking a shower, and I just had to finish up and get out quickly so I could calm myself. It's nothing dangerous. I can control myself if need be. It's just a mild anxiety. I would equate it to thinking about a creepy story or horror movie that really resonated with you. Story 4. The exteriors of boats and ships. I get laughed at constantly about this phobia. Anchors, hulls, propellers, etc. Just shoot me now. The bigger the ship, the more intense my phobic reaction. It's ridiculous because I can be on the boats, but if I'm near/next to one or touching one, I'm losing my ever-loving crap. My worst fear would be to fall overboard next to a gigantic tanker or cruise ship. Pro tip for people who have my phobia, if anyone does at all. Do not go to the U-boat exhibit at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. You will either have a full-blown panic attack like I did, or probably crap yourself, which thankfully I did not. Story 5. Hate to add this here, but it's Reddit. So, my grandfather was in the Navy during the attack on Pearl Harbor. It was the only action he ever saw during the war. For the rest of his life, 70 plus years, he awoke with night terrors 4-5 times a week. On his ship, I want to say the USS Maryland, but I could be wrong. He directed anti-aircraft fire and would assist with loading munitions, etc., etc. Anytime he'd go into the ship, or basically for the rest of the day, he'd hear his friends and fellow sailors drowning in the cold waters, listening to them scream for help as they pound against the ship. Unfortunately, there weren't enough rescuers to save them all, especially during an attack. Story 6. Also, deep waters. I was swimming in Bear Lake in Utah when I was 14, and it reportedly has a creature like the Loch Ness Monster. And the entire time I was scared. Even though I didn't believe in it, I was still anxious the entire time. In the water, it creeps me out when you can't see the bottom in water. I got the same anxiety while hiking in Zion's National Park when there was a narrow passage that was filled with water. The water was murky, so I couldn't see the bottom, and it kept freaking me out. One of my worst fears would be to be dropped in the middle of a huge, deep lake at nighttime. Story 7. Solar flares will eventually wipe out mankind. There will be widespread fires and power lines will ignite. Solar panels will do no good, and we will have no more source of refrigeration. The EMPs will destroy the GPS systems, and we will have no more electricity, and we will all starve to death. There will be riots and robbers trying to steal food from supermarkets and Costco's. Subsequently, I am scared of death and what death feels like before and after. I want to know what happens after so that I can live peacefully. It's not knowing that's killing me, and I worry about the afterlife. Story 8. Fungus. I can't stand fungus. I'm a 6'6", 240 pounds guy, and I'll squeal like a little girl if some food in my fridge has mold growing on it. I'll throw it on the counter and jump into the opposite end of the room while I hyperventilate. Then once I get my breathing under control, I take a few deep breaths, hold my breath, cover my hands in plastic bags, bag the offending item in 10 plastic bags, put those bags in the trash, wash my hands, and open the window. At this point, I can breathe again. Then I take out the trash so the offending item is no longer in the apartment. I think I may have a problem, though truthfully, it doesn't come up much. I keep a very clean fridge and kitchen. Story 9. Glitching outside a video game world. I mean stuff like falling through the world and falling into the absolute infinite abyss, being outside of the bounds of the drawable solid world. And for some reason, the endless flatlands in Minecraft do it for me too. The best example I can think of this fear is when one of my roommates went crazy with a super pickaxe in Minecraft and cut a large hole in the ocean bedrock and ended up crashing our server. I had to edit the world and fly underneath the bedrock and fill the hole in a third-party program. I had some crazy anxiety trying to fill that hole. Story 10. Mascots. It's not a scenario, but it is my greatest irrational fear. By irrational, I mean irrational. There is no reason. I just see someone in a mascot costume and freeze. All senses go into panic mode. My muscles seize with fear, and I either scream at the top of my lungs or open my mouth in a soundless scream. More often than not, I start crying immediately. Few people believe me until they see me in the same vicinity as a mascot. Story 11. That one day I'll wake up and not be able to speak. Some days I wake up with the thought that I can no longer speak, which would be really easy to dispel if I just said something. But the thought that I may not be able to speak stops me from trying to speak, lest I actually end up not being able to speak, which would only confirm the fear that I already have, which makes the fear even more imminent, which makes me want even more badly to speak, which makes me even more fearful that if I tried to speak and couldn't, then I'd really be in deep crap regarding the inability to speak, which makes it even scarier to think that I might not be able to speak anymore. Story 12. That my deceased dog will return angry after I put him down. I used to have nightmares about my dog returning with a machine on his back. The limbs and head would twitch and move in a robotic manner. The face was partially decaying, and teeth were showing through rotten lips. The machine or backpack would make a strange sound as the tubes that connected to his back pumped his thick black blood and various other fluids. In the dream, my dog would make his way inside from the backyard and slowly twitch himself to my room. The orange light on the backpack would cast eerie shadows on my furniture as it got closer, the sound getting louder. He would stop in the doorway and face me in my bed. The light on the backpack illuminates the hallway behind him, his rotten body standing upright as a silhouette. He would cast his shadow across the floor from his feet, his arms twitching, and at times there was the cracking of his bones. I had horrifying dreams. Story 13. Knives and saws will attack me as I walk past them in the dark. When I was 16, I had to walk through the tool department completely by myself when I closed the photo department of my store. Normally, all the lights, except for emergency lights, would be off, so I could just make out the shadows of hundreds of hammers, screwdrivers, power drills, manual and power saws, and razors, and replacement blades, and knives as I walked to the main office and out the back door. I knew, no, it's completely ridiculous, but I was convinced that they would jump out of their packaging or come magically to life and attack me every single time. Story 14. Sharks. I know they have a wicked PR team that spent the last several decades trying to convince people that they're simply graceful and majestic relics of prehistory, but in reality, they account for a significant number of all unsolved murders and disappearances globally. I also know that if I put my head under the shower head long enough, they'll punch through the floor of my shower and eat me, and that in the swimming pool, I have to keep turning around to look for the shark that is trying to ambush me, and there's no way I could even think about going in the deep end, and did I just get in this pool anyways? I'm getting out now, and the beach, sailing, fishing, etc. are for people who want to commit suicide by shark. Sharks, man, they're everywhere, and they are coming for me. Story 15, telephones. More importantly, calling people. I absolutely hate calling people I don't know. I used to get major anxiety and have to work up the nerve to call somebody. I don't know what the hell I was scared of either. It's not like they're gonna jump through the receiver and strangle me. Luckily, my first job forced me to call and demand payments from customers, so I grew out of my fear, thanks retail. But every now and then, my palms get sweaty from just ordering a pizza. Story 16. I'm going to admit it, I have an ego. I have all the qualities of someone with narcissistic personality disorder, and I'm kind of scared of slipping up in front of other people and them making fun of me or shunning me for what I did. Then I try to fix the situation, but just make it worse. I dig myself deeper into the problem, and they keep making fun of me. It's probably totally irrational because everyone I know likes me for the most part, but I've noticed that I have a pretty damn fragile ego. The bigger they are. Story 17 also, earthquakes. We had one recently, 5.3, and it's just scary. At first it's like, what's going on? Everything's moving, but then it doesn't stop. There's this rumbling noise that goes with it, and you feel so sick, like motion sickness, but really low, like it's pulling you down. My hands were shaking so hard, and my vision was being distorted from my pulse beating so fast, hard, I'd crap myself and pass out if we ever had a bigger one than that. Unfortunately, I live right on top of San Andreas fault line. Story 18, being stuck in any location or position and unable to remove myself from those positions. I think they call it claustrophobia. For instance, if I'm on a plane, I'm okay. If needed, I can go walk around, hit the restroom, etc. Once they put on the seatbelt sign, and now you're forced to remain seated, there's times where I will immediately go into a mild panic. I start to think things like, what if I did have to use the restroom? Even though I have no desire to, I couldn't. And then I start to freak out about that. And once the seatbelt sign goes off, I'm calm again, and I can go hours without thinking of a restroom. In the above specific case, other examples, being 100% on point for a presentation with important people, and the thoughts cross my mind like, if I ever needed to leave this location for any reason, I will lose this project / job / pitch / etc. And then the thoughts of that overtake the thoughts of just getting it done. It sucks. Learn to live with this stuff, but my God, it's annoying. Story 19. I am so scared of lizards and little geckos. The weird thing is, I don't have any fears of big lizards. It's anything under 6 inches that terrifies me. When I was a little kid, my mom would tell me that she was the lizard queen, and that if I misbehaved, her lizard minions would pick me up and take me away or eat my tongue if I lied. What is crazy is that I remember playing with lizards as a kid, but as I grew up between 12, 21, my current age, I've been unable to be in the same room as a small lizard. Story 20. I don't think it's weird, but everyone makes fun of me for being afraid of roller coasters. If I end up on one, I will hyperventilate, scream and cry during the entire ride and for a couple hours after, and that's if I can handle standing in line. The last time someone tried to bully me into riding one, I broke out in a cold sweat and threw up in fear after waiting an hour in line. I cannot tell you how many people think I'm crazy for this story 21, swimming in water through which I cannot see. I imagine that I am on top of hundreds or thousands of feet of space in which anything could be moving and living, and I am helpless against them. The idea that I am on top of all that water where the monsters live is a little more than I can take. While water skiing once, I almost had a panic attack while waiting for the boat to come around. and pick me up because I felt something on my foot. Story 22. Eating a spider while sleeping. In my earlier childhood, I heard lots of stories and facts about people eating spiders and how many spiders you will approximately eat in your life or have eaten yet. I was always like, oh, well, I won't recognize anyway, but I fear it nowadays. I always fall asleep facing away from the wall because the wall scares me so much. I also try to sleep with something like my blanket covering my mouth. The strange thing is that I only have that fear while sleeping at home, not at my bed in town. I would really like to finish up with this weird fear, but I can't, sadly. Story 23 I searched, but couldn't find it here, so I'll say it. Freaking praying mantises. The memory is etched into my mind forever. When I was about 3, 4, I think, around that age anyways, I was chilling on the balcony. It was a sunny day, and I usually played there, and on the plants, it was just there staring at me, all green with its claws. I had no idea what it was at the time, but I burst into tears, frightened for my life. What made it worse was that the balcony door was closed, and out of panic, I couldn't even open it. Man, it felt like an eternity till my mum came, as I was yelling for her the entire time. I honestly don't recall ever seeing one since then, so I'm not sure I'm afraid of it. But in general, I don't like creepy crawlies. Story 24. Once in the deep, dark depths of Oklahoma, I got out of the shower. My towel was hanging adjacent to the shower, slightly touching the ground. I thought nothing of it. I should have. I grab my towel and start drying off my head and everything, and then I go down to the boys. Suddenly my left thigh feels like somebody left a needle in a fire for 100 years and took it out and jabbed it directly into my leg. I moved the towel, almost in tears, thinking, what the Suddenly, on 2 spots this time, my right thigh feels exactly the same. Tears spilled over the brim of my eyes as I threw the towel down, only to see a scorpion swagger off underneath the cabinet. With the fury of my pain fueling me and the fear of another ambush, I grabbed the plunger and ended that bastard before he reached his destination. To this day, I can't start drying off without inspecting my towel repeatedly. Story 25 Submarines. 2 days ago, I went to a museum. It had a real-life submarine that you can get inside. I did. First compartment was fine. It was roomy and stuff, but then we moved through a corridor to the next one. I suddenly felt like I was gonna get stuck there, like there isn't any more air. I'm gonna get stuck and I'll die there. Kind of stuff. I started panicking and moved through like 5 people who was behind me and got out. So it turns out I'm a little claustrophobic, so F submarines. I also fear the pool shark and that monster that watches me from darkest places of the garden at night through the windows. I always close the curtains when it's dark for the fear of when I'm looking out, I'll see something looking back. Story 26. I used to have quite a fear of tall things, like really tall things, buildings over 10 stories, etc. I could hardly stand to look up at a Taco Bell sign. If I was underneath it, I got dizzy and had to look away. Not so bad now because I've been to several cities and kind of got used to it. Before that, I used to have a fear of those gas well cylinder things. My dad once told me they were very flammable and even smoking around them could be dangerous, and went on to the details about what would happen if one blew up, probably exaggerated. So every time I'd see one, my heart would start beating faster. Story 27 Balloons. I hate them so much. I hate all of them, but for different reasons. When I was younger, I had a lot of ear infections. I was not a fan of loud noises. Balloons popping. Also, their smell is gross and I just don't really like being around them, especially if there are lots of people around. I can't trust them. They're probably going to pop the balloons and I'm probably going to run the F away crying. I also can't be close to giant balloons, like the ones that are on top of gas stations or the giant parade balloons. I'm so afraid of them deflating if I'm close to them and they fall on top of me and I'm stuck under this giant balloon and I'm suffocating. Holy crap, run-on sentence. I do have this same fear with other giant things that could potentially fall and suffocate me. Story 28. Okay, I know this will get buried in the comments, but I am terrified of spiders. Not just, it's a spider. More like I cry, tremble, am generally messed up after a spider encounter. My irrational fear and belief is that spiders can teleport and have super healing powers, because I have literally dropped a phone book on one before, jumped up and down on top of said phone book, and when I lift up the book, the mother trucker gets up and takes off. Or I have lifted up the book in other instances and he's just gone. No guts, no nothing. That, and if I kill one, their friends watch me and wait to seek revenge. Story 29. Everywhere I go, someone is going to try and kill me. I'm at home, check all the doors and windows, set the alarm and wait for it to go off. I'm walking through a parking lot, prepare for somebody to jump out from behind a car and stab me. Any public place, look for the person who looks like they could be a mass killer. I always try and play out every possible scenario in my head so I can be ready for the person who is going to try and kill me. It's completely irrational, but I'm convinced one day it will happen. Also, the only reason I work out is so I can be prepared to defend myself. Story 30. Ever since I was a child, I've had a fear of bear suits. One night, I just happened to have a dream where I was sitting in my living room with all the lights off except for one light in the corner, and in that corner was a man in a bear suit. The suit was tattered and cheap, showing parts of his skin and his shoes that had looked like they had a mix of dried dirt with fresh blood on the tips. As he sat in the corner, with the head of the suit looking in my direction, he had his knife, a long butcher knife, like something out of horror movies. It was dripping blood, forming a pool of blood between his legs, and I had assumed that it was my parents' blood. He finally stood up and started walking towards where I was trying to curl up and hide from him on my couch. He started off walking slowly, but then he suddenly appeared right in front of me with his bare face in front of mine, just staring into me. He slowly brought up his dagger, held it in front of me, and then creeped it towards my chest. I watched its point slowly make its way to my ribs where it stopped. I was crying in my dream at this point and looked up at the man. At this point, I felt something pierce my chest. My vision went red, and I woke up screaming and crying. I cried most of the night until my mom woke up and got me. I was scared of bears and bear suits for the longest time. Now they just creep me out. Story 31. Quickly dip your hand in liquid nitrogen. As long as you don't leave your hand in it, it's a perfectly safe thing to do. In fact, it's a fairly common demonstration in physics classes that students are free to participate in. Even though I know it's safe, I can't bring myself to do it. I hate looking directly up into the sky at night, standing up too. I just imagine gravity flipping direction and me just falling off into space with nothing to grab hold of to keep myself planted on this planet. Of course, I know that it can't happen, but for whatever reason, that's always been something I've imagined happening.